5 sinister true stories revealed this summer, haunted encounters that will leave you terrified. Claire rubbed the sweat from her brow, feeling the oppressive weight of summer suffocating her suburban home. Each night, as she returned from long, exhausting shifts at the factory, an unsettling chill prickled her skin. Was something lurking just beyond her vision? Shadows danced along the cracked sidewalk, whispering secrets she dared not decode. The laughter of her children, Jake and Lily, had faded, replaced by echoes of fear that coiled in the stillness, growing thicker with every passing moment. Tonight, like every night, something didn't feel right. As the sun slipped below the horizon, Claire's heart raced with every creak of the old house. There were things in the dark, things that whispered through the open window, taunting her with an impenetrable dread. When Jake mentioned his friend Mr. Prescott, twisting the corners of Claire's stomach, her instinct told her to shield her children from this man whom her gut screamed was wrong. But exhaustion dulls reason, and doubt creeps in. "You're just tired, miss," the police had said. Fatigued minds can imagine the unimaginable, yet it wasn't her imagination that had Jake calling her in the dead of night, words stammering over sharp breaths. Something had twisted in her gut, and it took only one phone call to turn it into pure panic. "Mom, Jake is gone." Lily's voice cracked through the silence. Panic spread like wildfire, adrenaline flooded her veins. She bolted for the door. The night was alive with foreboding shadows, corners creaking with the weight of hushed fears. Abandoned lots loomed, bearing witness to disappearance after disappearance. Children used to fill these streets with laughter before the darkness swallowed them whole. Claire's heart thundered as she recalled each whispered story, a sinister undertow beneath the surface of their faded neighborhood. Where was Jake? Sweat trickled down her spine, merging with the cold fingers of that relentless dread. The drumming rain felt like a clock ticking down, each raindrop a reminder that time was slipping away. On the periphery, she spotted the silhouette of Mr. Prescott. The man was all too familiar enough to raise the hair on her neck and cause a gut-wrenching ferocity of panic. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue, but now wasn't the time for distractions. With each muffled scream of an angry thunderstorm butting against the cold pitch of night, Claire felt the indifference of darkness creeping up behind her. She could hear the whispers now, louder and clearer, wrapping tighter like a noose, turning her legs to lead. As the storm rolled in, shadows flickered ominously, and with every heartbeat, the question for her children echoed, were they safe? An echo in the distance caught her attention as she dashed around the corner of the old playground. Something had fallen. A crumpled drawing, the vivid colors of crayon bright and twisted into a child's nightmare. Jake's drawing? Had he known? And then she saw it, brief flashes of light illuminating a figure pulling her son away into unending darkness. A shiver ran down her spine, the shocking realization tightening its grip. Could it be that her beloved children were not the only ones lost in the night, but part of something far more sinister, tied to ancient shadows stirring with the arrival of summer? Standing on the brink, Claire felt madness claw at her sanity. An icy dread swept over her. Right then, she knew that comfortable neighborhood she'd trusted held not just her fears, but the horror she'd shielded her children from. Would she be able to find Jake? What nightmare awaited her in the thrumming heart of this desolate suburb? Feet pounding against the wet pavement, Claire plunged deeper into the alley behind the playground. The air thickened with rain and fear, her heart racing like a wild animal trapped in a cage. She could feel it, the pulse of something beyond her understanding thrumming in her veins, pushing her to run faster, to reach Jake before it was too late. The storm unleashed a torrent above her, and each howl of the wind whispered warnings, mingling with her own desperate cries. "Jake," she called, her voice swallowed by the downpour. She stumbled over twisted roots, eyes scanning the darkness for any sign of him. Shadows flickered against the faint orange light from street lamps, morphing into grotesque shapes that seemed to mock her panic. Goosebumps raced along her skin, dread coiling tighter in her stomach. In the distance, a soft giggle broke through the storm, an innocent sound that sent icy dread surging through her. Was it really laughter or the echo of a trick, hiding something far more sinister? Claire paused, breath hitching in her throat. "Jake!" she shouted again, willing his name to rise above the chaos. The laughter stopped, replaced by a chilling silence that weighed heavily on the air. The world around her shifted, and she felt watched, as if the darkness held its breath in anticipation. Claire's instincts screamed to turn back, but the fear of losing Jake paralyzed her. She spun around, grappling with her surroundings, when another flash of lightning illuminated the scene, a broken swing swaying eerily as if someone had just been on it. Memories of Jake laughing, soaring high above the ground, flooded her mind, twisting her heart in a vice. With new determination, Claire moved toward the swings, the once bright paint now faded and cracked. Just beyond them lay a gloomy path leading into an expanse of gnarled trees, branches clawing at the sky like skeletal fingers. There, she noticed something shifting. Was it a shadow? The movement was fleeting, ghostly almost. She squinted, heart hammering in her chest. Suddenly, she was no longer alone. Mr. Prescott stepped into the edge of the clearing, a ghost of a smile playing on his lips amidst the storm. The combination of rain-soaked clothes and the sly gleam in his eyes sent shivers down her spine. "Looking for someone?" he crooned. "Where's my son?" Claire yelled, her hands curling into fists. His smile widened, revealing teeth too white against his weathered face. "He's just having some fun. Don't you want to join us?" His voice slithered around her, dripping with malice. Claire's breath caught in her throat. Fun? A bone-chilling realization washed over her. Mr. Prescott's fun was a predator's game, one that lured children into the dark, never to return. She felt overwhelming rage and despair surge like wildfire. "You let him go!" she screamed, instinctively backing away, fingers fumbling through muck, bracing against the swing set. But the shadows shifted. The laughter rose again, echoing around her as Jake's innocent giggle morphed into a sinister chorus. Claire's gut dropped as she realized the laughter wasn't just in her head. "Don't be scared." Mr. Prescott stepped closer, and with each step, the ground beneath him seemed to swallow the light whole. Panic crackled in the air, and Claire's instincts surged. The need to save her boy erupted in her chest like a wildfire. And then she heard a whisper. It spiraled through the darkness, and as she strained to listen, it flickered like candlelight, growing in intensity. "Help me!" The voice was Jake's. Pain and fear clawed at Claire's heart. She hesitated for just a moment, her breath hitching. But the urge to chase that voice, the need to protect her son, surged stronger. Barely hearing her own thoughts over the crescendoing storm, she tore past Prescott toward the trees, ready to face whatever came next. Was Jake close? Or was it too late? And what awaited her in the depths of that darkness? Claire plunged into the treacherous thicket, limbs scraping against wet branches and thorny vines. Each step felt like entering a realm where shadows danced and whispers morphed into screams. The wind howled a mournful tune, urging her to turn back, yet the haunting whisper of Jake urged her to press on. "Help me!" His voice echoed again, closer now, creating a flicker of hope that drowned out the storm. But was it hope or a cruel mirage? As she navigated through the twisted trees, her clothes clung to her, drenched and heavy. The underbrush crackled underfoot like broken glass, each sound unnaturally loud amidst the silence that followed. Claire's pulse raced with every heartbeat, creating a thunderous drum against the still air. She thought of Jake, of his laughter, now turned sinister, taunting her very soul. "Jake!" She called again, her voice a desperate plead. In response, the air thickened as if something was shifting around her. The trees loomed closer, towering over her. The playful whispers wrapped tighter, morphing into a cacophony of mockery. "Help me!" It came again, this time from directly in front of her. The voice sounded so real, so achingly familiar. Claire sprinted toward it, branches clawing at her skin, searing her with every touch. She stumbled into a clearing, and her heart sank. The ground was littered with small toys, Jake's toys. A crumpled drawing he'd made of their family lay discarded, the vibrant colors now muted in the rain. With dread washing over her, she knelt to pick it up. As she clutched it to her chest, a figure flickered in the corner of her eye. Claire. But it wasn't Jake's voice. It was deeper. Malevolent. She whirled around to find Mr. Prescott's silhouette emerging from the shadows. The wicked grin stretched wider, eyes glinting like polished stones in the dark. "Doesn't it break your heart?" Children's laughter lost forever. "What have you done?" Claire shouted, fists shaking with rage. He took a step closer, and the darkness seemed to melt around him, revealing a grotesque emptiness. "Just a game, my dear. They're safe, for now, but join us, and you'll see." As he spoke, the laughter returned, swirling around her like the storm winds. It was as if hundreds of children laughed, a chorus of lost souls, each note saturated with despair. Claire felt her mind unraveling. Panic surged as she swung her gaze back to the toys. "Where's Jake?" she demanded, voice cracking. "He's playing hide and seek," Mr. Prescott said, words dripping with mockery. "But dear Claire, you're better at seeking, aren't you? Find him, before he becomes one of us." A blade of fear sliced through her. As Claire stared into Prescott's eyes, a revelation struck her. This wasn't just a game, it was bait. He fed on distress, on the helplessness of mothers like her. She wouldn't give in. Not now. Another flash of lightning illuminated the clearing. For a fleeting moment, she glimpsed signs of struggle, marks in the dirt, torn fabric, a tiny shoe discarded in the mud. The evidence of what lay ahead gnawed at her heart as she took a deep breath, sharpening her resolve. "I will find him," she said defiantly, feeling the swell of power in her chest. "I will break your hold." With each step deeper into the shadows, the forest moaned around her, and Jake's plea rang louder, merging with the sinister laughter. She could feel the fight coiling within her, ready to ignite, but the ground beneath her shifted, startling her back to reality. The very earth trembled, and as she looked back, Mr. Prescott began fading, becoming one with the darkness. "Tick-tock, Claire, the game has begun," he warned, his voice echoing into the void. Suddenly, everything fell silent. Claire stood at the mouth of a trail leading deeper into the woods, unsure whether to follow the path or retreat to the danger she'd just left. Which way would lead her closer to Jake? And what awaited her in that endless dark? Claire's breath came in ragged bursts, a desperate attempt to steady the tumult inside her. The stillness was unnerving, as if the forest itself held its breath, waiting for her next move. For a moment, the weight of despair crashed over her like a wave, threatening to pull her under. She clutched the drawing tighter, as if it were a talisman against the encroaching dread. With a final look back, she stepped onto the path. The shadows shifted, trees close enough to constrict. Every step was a battle against the darkness that oozed around her, wrapping her in cold tendrils. She pressed on, each footfall a whispered urgency that seemed to stir the dead air. "Jake!" she called again, her voice trembling. But the only response was the echo of her own fear. The path twisted, narrowing, and soon the trees began to thin. A faint light pierced through the foliage, flickering like a dying star. She quickened her pace, heart pounding with both hope and dread. What awaited her on the other side? As she emerged into the light, a clearing revealed itself, a grotesque carnival of horrors. Torn banners fluttered in an eerie wind, faded specters of joy. Decaying rides stood still, coated in rot, each creak echoing like a ghostly cry. Children's laughter floated through the air, dissonant and twisted. "Jake!" Claire shouted again, desperation hot on her tongue, but an icy grip seized her heart. Her gaze caught on a carousel in the center, painted horses frozen in a menacing gallop. Shadows cloaked their eyes, making them look almost sentient, watching, waiting. She approached slowly, the laughter growing to a crescendo as if the very ride were alive with the souls of lost children. Taking a deep breath, Claire reached for one of the horses, glancing down at the muddy base. Tiny, worn shoes littered the ground, the unmistakable size of Jake's lost pair. Her stomach twisted. Had he been here? Cool ride, huh? A voice chirped behind her. She spun around, heart racing. A child stood there, small, dirty, and grinning with an innocence that felt utterly wrong. "Wanna play?" he asked, eyes glinting with something unsettling. "Where's Jake?" Claire demanded, stepping closer. "Is he with you?" "Maybe." The boy giggled, his laughter piercing through her. "He's fun to play with. But you have to join us to find him." Claire's blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" "Mr. Prescott said you're the best at seeking." The child laughed again, and the sound twisted, melding with the cries of the lost. Shadows lengthened, and the other children began to emerge, phantoms of desolation with hollow eyes. Suddenly, the air shifted. The playful banter turned sinister, morphing like the shadows around her. "Come play, Claire. Your turn." They chanted in chorus, voices rising in a ghostly harmony. Claire's pulse quickened, understanding dawning like a cruel sunrise. This was a trap, Mr. Prescott's trap, luring her in, feeding on despair. But the thought of Jake kept her anchored in the tide of fear. With a fierce determination, she yelled, "Listen to me. I want to play your games." But the laughter surged, echoing, overwhelming her. The children closed in, their joy twisted into something grotesque, a cruel imitation of innocence. "What do you want from me?" she screamed, fighting the urge to flee. "Join us forever." The ring of children answered, voices clawing at her sanity. Claire's heart raced as realization splintered through her. She was running out of time. Prescott's warning echoed in her mind, "Tick-tock, Claire, the game has begun." With sudden clarity, she sprinted back, searching for a way out, the cacophony of laughter nipping at her heels. The path had shifted, and the shadows converged, trying to ensnare her. She felt the grasp of something cold and foul, lingering just behind her. "Jake!" she called, desperation clawing at her throat as she stumbled through the ominous maze, the laughter blending with a new voice, a voice calling, "Mom." That call, was it real? Was it Jake? The shadows closed in. Would she find him? Or would they lose him forever? Claire stumbled forward, the ground shifting beneath her feet, disorienting her. The laughter of the children rang in her ears, a haunting symphony filled with malice. Panic clawed at her insides, each breath shallow and hurried as she fought against the tidal wave of despair that threatened to engulf her. "Mom!" The voice rang out again, a desperate plea that ignited hope within her. Was it Jake? "Jake!" she called out. "I'm coming." Ignoring the pressing shadows, she pushed onward, her heart a frantic drumbeat. Every tree, every brush of wind, felt like hands reaching for her, trying to pull her back into the darkness. The clearing twisted around her, the carnival morphing into a living nightmare. The once vibrant colors had dulled, replaced by sickly greens and browns, the air thick with the scent of rot. Claire's gaze darted between the distorted rides, searching for any sign of Jake, for any trace of childlike innocence amidst the horror. A movement near the carousel caught her attention. The painted horses seemed to sway, their eyes now glowing with a hungry light. Among them, there was a flash of familiar clothing, a small t-shirt, a pair of shorts. Hope glimmered, it had to be him. She edged closer, the laughter of the children turning into a low, mocking chant, surrounding her with invisible chains. Join us, no." She gritted her teeth, shaking her head fiercely. "I won tea." The chill creeping up her spine insisted it didn't matter. It was too late. She could feel it deep in her bones. Claire. The voice again, a heartbeat in the dark. She spun, desperate, the carousel spinning slowly not far behind her. Shadows flickered in the corners of her vision, daunting figures hiding just beyond the edges of the clearing. Without thinking, she sprinted to the carousel, her hand reaching out for the tattered fabric of Jake's shirt. But as she touched it, the world around her warped, the laughter morphing into screams. The painted horse released a low whinny, and everything spun out of control. "Please, God, let him be safe," she cried, and in that moment, the world went black. When she opened her eyes again, she was lying on the ground, the carnival vanished as if it had never been. The trees loomed overhead, but they felt different, less sinister, more like sentinels watching over her. Panic rushed through her. Where was she? "Jake!" she called, lungs burning. But as her voice reverberated through the forest, an unnerving silence fell. Anxiety seized her as she pushed herself up from the cold ground, scanning the area frantically. A low whisper carried through the trees, threading its way through the branches like the smoke of a forgotten fire. "Help me, Mom!" Her heart dropped. It was unmistakably Jake. Claire's legs strengthened with resolve, launching her forward once more, guided by the ethereal call. The deeper she pushed into the forest, the more she felt an unseen darkness tracing her steps, coaxing her to stop, but she wouldn't. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, twisting into something fevered. "He's lost in the dark, lost forever." The words clung to her like the chilly air, drumming another wave of fear through her veins. "Leave him alone." She screamed into the thick woods, but the laughter erupted anew, wicked and harsh. This time, it wasn't just the children. There were deeper things lurking, twisted entities clawing at her resolve. They were in the shadows watching, waiting. Claire rushed through the underbrush, branches snagging at her clothes, slicing her skin. With each step, the voices transformed from laughter to cries, from playfulness to something more ominous. "Join us, lose yourself." Breathless, she stumbled into a clearing. A tall figure loomed ahead, familiar but lost. Jake. His tiny form stood, lost eyes staring ahead as if trapped in a trance. The air thickened, and another shadow emerged beside him, a shadow that looked eerily like Mr. Prescott. "Join us, Claire." Prescott's voice dripped with malice, weaving its way into her thoughts. "No. I want tea," Claire shouted, hysteria bubbling over. She couldn't let them take him. But as she stood there, caught between light and dark, a whisper brushed past her ear, chilling her to the bone. "The game is still on." Fear clawed at her throat. Was this just the beginning? "Jake!" she yelled again, heart racing as she moved closer. Would she be able to save him, or would they both be caught in this nightmare forever? The shadows swirled, tightening their grips, and the laughter crescendoed once more. The carnival's curse was far from over. What awaited her was a reckoning she never imagined. With a desperate heart, she lunged forward, believing against hope that this time she could save him. But just as she reached him, everything changed. Claire felt the air crackle with tension, palpable and heavy, as she lunged towards Jake. Time twisted and slowed, the shadows stretched out, wrapping around her like creeping vines intent on dragging her back into the void. Her hand brushed against Jake's shoulder, but it felt icy, lifeless. "Mom." His voice was distant, barely audible. His eyes, once full of life, now glimmered with a haunting glaze. She could see him physically there, but something inside him had vanished. "Jake, please," she cried, shaking him gently, desperate to reach beyond whatever had ensnared him. "You have to come back. We need to go." But no response. Instead, Mr. Prescott laughed, a deep, mocking sound that echoed through the clearing, reverberating off the trees and amplifying the terror in the air. "He can't come back, Claire. He belongs to us now. Just as you will." Every instinct screamed for her to run, yet fear cemented her feet to the forest floor. The darkness slithered closer, whispering promises of eternal safety if she simply surrendered. She fought against the weight of those whispers, remembering the warmth of Jake's laughter, the playful glint in his eyes. "I'm not leaving you." She stomped her foot, anger igniting her courage. With renewed determination, she threw her arms around Jake and pulled him fiercely. The shadows recoiled, hissing, but she felt a flicker of warmth beneath her hand. There was still something there, some remnant of her son beneath the frozen exterior. "Jake! Come back to me." As if responding to her plea, his eyes blinked, slowly focusing on her, though they remained clouded. "Mom, I'm scared." The darkness writhed in rage at her defiance, the leaves rustled violently, and the ground trembled. The shadows enveloped Prescott, morphing him into a daunting figure, a twisted knot of human and beast. "You'll pay for this, Claire. Children belong to the carnival. They crave it." "No!" she screamed, pulling Jake closer, feeling his small frame trembling against her. The laughter roared, encircling them like a cyclone, mixing with the cries of lost souls, all those who had succumbed. The world began to shift, a vortex of swirling darkness, pulling and pushing. Claire tightened her grip on Jake, refusing to let the shadows take him. "I love you, Jake. Remember our game? The one we always played? Mom? The hidden treasure?" His voice was weak but there, igniting a spark of clarity in his gaze. "Yes. The one with the maps and the clues." She squeezed his hands, shaking him lightly. "Look for the light, Jake. We have to find it together." Suddenly, he seemed to struggle against the haze. "The light, I see it." The shadows shrieked, their furious sounds piercing her ears as they recoiled. "You cannot escape this. Join us." But Claire had planted the seed of hope. With every ounce of willpower, she shouted, "Run to the light, Jake. Now!" Hand in hand, they turned from the oppressive darkness, running toward the dim glow filtering through the trees. Every footstep was met with an anguished scream, a desperate grasping from the darkness that clawed at their heels. "Keep going," Claire urged, feeling strength surge through her as they dashed forward. The forest seemed to open before them, the gloom dissipating. But just as they neared the edge of the light, a figure loomed once more larger, feral teeth glinting in the faint illumination. "Claire! Jake!" The voice dripped with malice. Prescott wasn't finished. "This isn't over. You will both join him." In that very moment, everything changed again. The light flickered violently, the world twisting as shadows lunged forward, whispering promises of despair. Claire felt her grip loosening, and a scream ripped from her throat as she saw the shadows pulling Jake back, a malevolent force tearing at the bond they shared. "Mom!" Jake's voice was filled with terror, fading into the suffocating darkness, heart pounding. Claire realized that desperation had transformed into a new level of terror. She was losing him not just to Prescott but to the abyss itself. "No! I'll save you." But the ground opened up beneath her, black. Tendrils of night reaching up, drawing her into the very nightmare they had tried to escape, and suddenly, a chilling proclamation echoed in her ear, almost lovingly, "You cannot run from your fate." This was only the beginning of a darker game. What else lay ahead in this labyrinth of despair? Would she ever find her way back? Would they ever be free? The shadows danced around her, whispering their sinister promises, as the carnival's laughter echoed in the void, wrapping around her like a sinister lullaby. Claire's thoughts screamed for escape, but could she truly wake from this living nightmare? Claire's world spiraled into chaos. The shadows grasped at her ankles, tugging her down into the unseen depths. Panic clawed at her throat, her breath came in ragged gasps. She couldn't lose Jake. Not now. "Jake!" she shouted, her voice slicing through the rising tide of darkness. "Hold on to me." But as she looked back, dread enveloped her. Jake was slipping, his terrified face twisted in confusion. Though she gripped him tightly, the shadows clamored, their voices merging into a chilling symphony of despair. "Join us, join him," they vexed in unison. "Never!" she roared defiantly. "I won't let you take him." With all her strength, she yanked Jake back towards her. A flicker of light pulsed from within him, brief but undeniable. She focused on that spark, gritting her teeth against the suffocating chill emanating from the depths below. They were teetering on the brink, and she would fight with everything she had. "Think of the treasure, Jake," she urged, casting away the cloying shadows. "We need a map to guide us out." Jake's eyes widened with understanding. "The treasure." The spark brightened, illuminating his face with a soft glow that even the darkness couldn't extinguish. "Yes. Imagine it," she said earnestly. "Feel the warmth of the sun. Picture the map in your hands." As if responding to her words, the shadows recoiled momentarily, squirming as their power faltered. In that moment, Claire grasped onto the hope she had sparked in her son's heart. "Now, Jake. Run toward the light." She tugged him forward as the light expanded, approaching like a beacon shrouded in smoke. With newfound resolve, they sprinted through the forest, weaving through tree trunks that twisted and groaned under the strain of their passage. Ahead, the light pulsed rhythmically, promising deliverance. Claire's heartbeat thundered in her ears, each pulse urging them onward, but as the last veil of shadows fell away behind them, the ground suddenly churned beneath their feet. The earth itself seemed to rise in opposition, and the haunting laughter of Mr. Prescott echoed once more, a reminder that they were still pursued. "Did you really think you could escape?" The voice loomed large, drowning out the comfort of the light. "You'll always belong to the carnival." "No!" Claire cried, wrenching herself and Jake away from the growing darkness. They raced forward, but the ground cracked like thunder beneath them, and clawing shadows emerged, reaching out with long, grasping fingers. "Mom! It's too much!" Jake screamed, his small frame trembling. "Keep running," Claire urged, though her heart fluttered with despair. The oppressive weight of the shadows approached again, growling and grating, wrapping around their legs, luring them back to the void. She could feel the chill creeping into her bones, whispering doubts, wrapping around her mind. "You're too late. You will fail." In a surge of adrenaline, Claire pushed past the fear. "Think of the treasure," she shouted again. "We will keep running. We will find it together." Just as they neared the light, fingers from the darkness grasped at Jake, pulling him away. "Mom!" Jake cried, eyes wide, fear pulsing through their connection. "No!" Claire's voice became a feral growl, as she lunged forward, managing to grip both Jake's hand and the edge of the light. Their fingers entwined, the confrontation boiled over. Claire felt their souls merging, her fear and his resolve igniting a blinding brilliance that burst forth to clash with the darkness. Time stood still as the shadows reeled back, hissing. The laughter faded, replaced by piercing shrieks of fury, but just as victory seemed to rise, Claire's foot slipped. The ground crumbled beneath her, and the abyss yawned wide once more. "Jake! Don't let go!" As she felt herself being pulled into the void, the last thing she saw was Jake, his eyes filled with terror and determination. "Mom! I won't leave you." With a surge of energy, Claire tightened her grip, knowing they were both teetering on the edge of despair and hope, clinging to that radiant connection that flickered between them. In the depths of the void, whispers filled the air, swirling around them, promising despair and darkness. "You cannot outrun your fate." And before Claire could react, the darkness roared, dragging them down, deeper into the night's embrace. But unbeknownst to Claire, the real terror was yet to come. What awaited them in the tumultuous abyss? Would they find the treasure of escape, or would they plunge deeper into their cursed connection with the carnival? The world blurred into a vortex of midnight, a gnashing, howling chaos that swallowed Claire and Jake whole. Light and dark twisted together, creating an unsettling dance of shadows that clawed at their minds. Fear gripped Claire's heart like a vice, and she sensed the abyss yearning to claim them. "Jake!" she shouted, her throat raw and tearing. But there was no answer. Only the drumming of her pulse and the eerie whispering that slithered around them, chilling her soul. "Jake!" Suddenly, icy fingers latched onto her neck, cold breaths of despair seeping into her skin. Claire squeezed her eyes shut and focused on Jake's warmth, on the lifeline that bound them together amidst the chaos. "Hold on!" she yelled, trying to drown out the shadows, trying to reach beyond the suffocating fear. "We're going to escape, I swear it." In that awful moment, she felt his grip falter. Panic surged within her. "Jake!" And then there was a flicker. A pinprick of light low in the pit of darkness. Recognizing it, Claire's heart surged with hope. "There. Do you see that? We can reach it." The light pulsed with a rhythmic beat, almost like a heartbeat, like the echo of her own. She scrambled, lunging forward, pulling Jake toward the beacon. But the shadows roared back with ferocity, rising up in waves, their hands clawing at Jake, desperate to drag him down. "Mom! It won't let go." Jake's voice broke through the cacophony, laced with sheer terror. "Trust me. We are stronger than this." Claire screamed, her voice shaking the air around them. She felt raw, her muscles burning, but it didn't matter, she was their only chance. Just then, the ground beneath them rippled, a boiling landscape of shadow that twisted at their feet. In horror, Claire saw the faces of the damned, wretched souls trapped in the carnival's grip, their mouthless cries silent screams that echoed in her heart. The very fabric of the abyss seemed to throb with malevolence. "What do you want from us?" Claire shouted defiantly. But the shadows responded with laughter, cruel and mocking. "What you seek is deeper than you know," they hissed. The light shimmered, taunting them. It was flickering, 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 and she could hear Jake's whimpering breaths against the rising tide of despair. "Mom, I'm so scared. I'm here, Jake. I want to let them take you." Her voice wavered, but she pushed onward, inciting every ounce of strength she could summon. They moved in sync, each step a struggle, the shadows snapping at them like predators. The light glimmered closer, but the darkness rose higher, a tempest of anguish, yelling with twisted voices. "You belong to us. You can't escape your fate." And then a horrible realization crashed over Claire. Despair wasn't just an illusion, it was something real, a festering entity that could consume them whole. "We have to fight it," she urged, digging deep into her soul as she envisioned the treasure, the warmth and happiness waiting for them beyond this nightmare. The moment of truth arrived as they reached the precipice of the approaching light. "Just a little more," she screamed, feeling the shadows wrapping around her body like barbed wires, pulling tighter. But they were close, so close now. She could almost touch it, almost taste the freedom. Then, just as they edged into the light's embrace, the darkness surged forward like a tidal wave, threatening to engulf them in its suffocating horror. Everything trembled, earth, flesh, hope, and Claire felt herself slipping, falling, fading into screaming shadows. As she fell, she locked eyes with Jake, who was clutching at the air, tears streaming. "Mom!" he cried, the sound haunting, almost a requiem, and then, silence. Eerie stillness. A moment where everything, the madness and chaos, paused, and from that stillness, a haunting voice echoed. "You will see him again, but will he remember you?" Claire felt the darkness closing in once more, and dread crawled along her skin. What awaited them deep within the abyss? Would they find salvation, or face an even darker fate? The stillness was deceptive. Eerie as it was, the darkness held its breath, and Claire felt the weight of anticipation. Something lurked just beyond her vision. As she spun in the void, bracing herself against the creeping dread, her hands grasped for Jake, but he was gone. The emptiness stretched out like an abyss, cold, unwelcoming, and vast. Jake! She screamed again, her voice bouncing against unseen walls. Her heart pounded in a frantic drumbeat, despair gripped her, threatening to drown her. Just then, the shadows stirred, whispering in voices that slithered beneath her skin. "Where's your little boy, Claire?" They sang, the echoes like nails scraping across metal. "We took him, for you." Panic surged like ice through her veins. "You'll never have him," she pleaded, grounding her thoughts in the image of Jake's laughter, memories she clung to like a lifeline. But every heartbeat felt heavier, every breath more labored. "I will find him." Suddenly, the darkness twisted, melding and reshaping until figures began to emerge. Twisted faces contorted in joyless rapture stared back, wicked smiles stretching too wide. Eyes devoid of light glimmered like stars swallowed by night, hungry for her fear. She forced herself to move, propelled by a raw instinct, her legs whipping beneath her like roots torn from the earth, searching for any sign of Jake. "Hold on, sweetie. I'm coming." She clenched her fists, the chills sinking into her bones as she dodged and weaved, the shadows shrieking with laughter, their fingers grasping, urging her to join the soulless parade. "Mom!" It was a faint cry, barely audible over the darkness, but it jolted her to a standstill. The sound was so familiar, laced with dread, and it pierced through the din like a beacon. It came from somewhere within the vast emptiness. Her heart shouted for her to go toward it. "Jake!" She shouted once more, her voice fire against the cold. Each step crunched on the liquid shadows beneath her feet as she pushed forward, deeper into the inky void that sought to consume her. With each step, Jake's cries grew louder, echoing through the abyss like a desperate prayer. Suddenly, the air thickened, pulling away from her like a shroud. She felt herself suspended between realities, teetering on a knife's edge. "Jake!" She cried out, clasping her hands to her ears, struggling against the whispers that twisted around her mind. What danger lay ahead? And then, the ground trembled. The darkness roared, the laughter escalating into howls of anger. "You think you can resist? Come back. You cannot escape your fate." Before Claire could react, the world split apart. A brilliant surge of light engulfed her, raw and vibrant, drawing her in with an almost magnetic pull. She stumbled, nearly falling, but seized the moment. She grasped at the glowing warmth, heart racing as the brightness exploded like fireworks in her head. In the heart of the light, she glimpsed a figure. Jake! It was him. She fell to her knees, reaching, fingertips brushing against the brilliant glow. Then everything collided, a surge of fire and ice. The shadows clawed, pulling her back, tearing at the fabric of her existence, fighting against the illumination that threatened to consume them, but there was no choice. With one last scream of resistance, Claire propelled herself forward, determined to reach him. "You will not take my son!" She roared, but the shadows were stronger than she knew. As she dove into the light, a singed whisper curled into her ear. "Fate has plans, crueler than you can imagine." A moment later, she felt her body fracture, time suspending around her as the glow enveloped them both, and then, everything fell silent again. This time there was no laughter, only an unsettling stillness that wrapped around them, drawing her breath. "Jake? Where are you?" Her voice trembled with fear. In this new void, would they be able to find each other again, or would the darkness have already altered all they had known? And so, amidst the whispering silence, she felt the weight of a terrible choice rising within her. Could she trust the light, or would it lead them to even greater horrors? Light enveloped Claire, refracting into soft hues that mingled like a dream. She staggered, heart racing, grappling with the uncertainty of her surroundings. "Jake?" She called out, her voice trembling in the stillness. Her eyes adjusted, revealing a landscape untouched by the shadows, a bright field with sprawling grass, dotted with wildflowers and bathed in the golden glow of an eternal sunset. The scene felt impossibly serene, too fragile to last, yet a desperate hope seeped through her sharp despair. "Mom?" A shaky voice whimpered behind her, small and familiar. Claire spun around. Jake! Relief surged through her. His little form appeared, surged with both vulnerability and joy. She rushed forward, scooping him into her arms, squeezing him tightly for fear he might evaporate into the golden light. I found you. I thought I lost you. He clung to her, breathless. I was so scared, Mom. The shadows, they tried to take me. But I remembered the treasure. Claire held him close, feeling warmth radiate between them. You keep that light inside you, Jake. No shadow can take it. But as the words hung between them, the landscape flickered ominously. The sweet illusion of warm light trembled, the laughter of lost children echoing in the background. You will not escape, a whisper twisted through the air, tangling with Claire's resolve. It was the carnival again, its presence looming, pulsing like a heartbeat, yearning to reclaim its lost souls. Jake! She rasped, pulling him closer, we need to move, now. The ground beneath them trembled, shadows pooling like ink along the edges of the picturesque scene as the darkness writhed, ready to strike. Where do we go? Jake asked, his voice trembling with fear. Towards the light. Trust your heart, Claire replied, taking his small hand in hers. Together, they surged forward, racing across the sunlit field, but the ground was shifting beneath them, dirt turning to shadow, a treacherous battlefield of hope versus despair. No! Claire shouted, eyes wide. The shadows climbed higher, whispering promises of safety and freedom if only they turned back, if only they succumbed. Keep running, Jake. But as they fled, jaws of darkness snapped dangerously close. They emerged into a glade, the faint hum of the carnival fading into an unsettling quiet. For a heartbeat, clarity washed over her, it was almost peaceful. We have to stand together, she urged, taking a breath. Whatever comes, we will face it. A low rumble rolled through the air, and the shadows congealed, forming into familiar shapes, echoes of lost children caught in their cycle of despair. Join us! They chanted, their eyes hollow yet hopeful, faces twisted but yearning. Jake! Claire shielded him with her body, anger flaring. They want to take you. We fight this together. The shadows darkened, swirling, and from within their depths, Mr. Prescott's twisted smile re-emerged, vile and threatening. You cannot save him, Claire, he growled, creeping closer, insidious. But something within Claire ignited an unyielding fire sparked by the love for her son. I will not let you win. She screamed. We are stronger than you'll ever know. In that contested moment, something within Jake flickered, a dim light igniting in the storm. Mom! He cried, panic lacing his words. Hold on to me. Claire surged forward, grasping Jake's hand. Together they stood, rooted against the encroaching darkness. Now! She shouted, her heart pounding like a war drum. Let us get to the light. A vibrant pulse surged through their hands, illuminating them like stars bursting to life. The shadows shrieked, recoiling as if scalded. They pushed ahead, the light growing brighter as they merged with it, fueling each other's determination. With one final surge, they broke through the veil of darkness. A blinding explosion of brilliance enveloped them, lifting them higher as the shadows wailed in agony, unable to hold on. Claire clutched Jake, both joyful and terrified at the violent release of the last darkness from which they would crawl. And then, as if the universe conspired to give them reprieve, they were released. Claire and Jake tumbled onto warm grass, the carnival gone. They lay beneath the wide-open sky, the sun blazing down as if welcoming them back. They breathed in the cool, fresh air. We did it, Claire whispered, tears of relief streaming down her face. Jake nodded, eyes wide with wonder. Yes, we did. In the distance, echoes of laughter returned, not sinister or haunting, but pure. They could hear their own voices mingling in the wind, unchained at last. As they stood together, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead, Claire knew they were free not just from the shadows of the carnival, but from the pain that once rested heavy in their hearts. "Let us go home," she said, holding Jake's hand tighter. "Yes, let us go." With light guiding them, the darkness finally receded, leaving them truly free, their story far from over, yet forever altered. Transformed by the shadows, they stepped into a new dawn, a testament to love's resilience amidst the dark. Now, as the sun dipped below the horizon, they turned their faces toward the future, hearts ignited with hope. But wait! Before you leave, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Believe me, it makes a difference. And don't forget to flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Also, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support, so don't wait even one more second.